Welcome to Our Legacy Speaks, Episode 1. Mary Braccio Brackett, born July 15th, 1954. Good evening, Miss Mary.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for being a part of this and for sharing your story with your family and your loved ones. This is going to be fun. Let me ask you before we dive in, how are you doing today? Do you have a good day?
I'm actually doing pretty good. Yeah, I had a decent day.
Good days help.
Yeah, it was busy.
Yeah. Do you like busy?
Yeah, sometimes it makes the day go a little too fast, but I take my time to sit and just be me for a while.
Is there anywhere you'd like to start, or shall we begin in the beginning?
I guess the beginning's
I like
always
that.
good.
I like that.
Is
Tell me a little bit about your childhood and family origins, like your early life. Tell me about where you were born and, some of your earliest memories.
Well, I was born in Abington, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Philadelphia. Um, Lived there for 19 years until I joined the Navy. And my parents were actually born in Italy. They were born in Maida, Calabria, Italy. And they were actually born as U.S. citizens, even though they were born in Italy, because both my grandfathers had come over in the early 1900s and separately and became citizens. And then they went back to Italy, got married, and as they went back and forth, brought money, the family grew. And each of my parents are actually number 6 in each of their families.
Wow. What was their occupation that allowed them to travel like that?
My grandfather on my mother's side, he worked in the factory, and I remember when he retired, it was 25 years, and he got his certificate and his watch,
Yes.
at that time, and he got his pension. But he was I believe it was an ironworks factory, and I'm not exactly sure what they made, but they lived not far from the factory. He could walk. He never owned a car. I remember that. Everywhere he needed to go, he walked. And he was a gentleman. I mean, he always had his fedora. He had his like a 3/4 length coat or jacket and shoes. You never saw tennis shoes on my family. They were they had that European look.
Yeah.
But they were Americans. They believed in America. As a matter of fact, when World War I started, he was offered, it was actually before he became a citizen, and he was offered transportation back to Italy that he could join the Italian army since we were on the same side during that war, or stay in the U.S. And he goes, oh no, America, America. And he went into the army, and I remember as a girl him having the American Legion book and the American Legion hat, and it was always right there on the dresser. And he would tell me stories. And I think that is actually why I ended up in the Navy and retired from the Navy, is because my grandfather, he just believed in this country. And I found out through Ancestry that, because he told me that he went to France, and I was able to finally locate the fact that they left from Bayonne, New Jersey, on the transport ship, the USS George Washington. And he went to France. And he said, yeah, we get there, and John, the war is over. Yes. But he was over in France for 3 months.
Wow.
Doing, I guess, the
Ready to
cleanup part.
serve.
Yeah, he served. He was served proudly. And then I found his citizenship papers, and on there, his reasons why, he had to renounce the king. I think it was King Emmanuel at the
What
time.
year was this? Roundabout.
Let's see. Because he was in the army between 1918 and 1919. And I believe he became a citizen in 1921, if I remember right.
Wow.
And so it's a long time ago. And
The roaring 20s.
The Roaring Twenties. Yes, I didn't even think about that. And I remember on his citizenship paper, they said, reasons why. And he was saying about how he served, that he was a veteran and,
Wow.
and put his time when he was in.
He was proud of that?
Oh, he was very proud.
Yeah.
Very proud. I was 14 when he passed away. And for some reason, I was the only one of the grandchildren. I was the first grandchild, actually, to be there. And the American flag covered his coffin. I didn't even think about that until he was buried, and the American flag covering his coffin had a very significant effect on me. It was a little mind-boggling. This man who couldn't really speak English that well. He spoke broken English. He didn't read or write English. But that American flag covered his coffin, and it made me feel, he gave me the opportunity, to do whatever I wanted. My cousins back in Italy, basically they grew up, they got married, they had kids, they, worked for serving their family and their husbands for the rest of their lives, where, I had the opportunity to go to school, go to college, like I said, join the service.
He opened doors for you.
Yes, absolutely. So
What you sort of answered some of it. What values do you think your family passed on to you without ever realizing it?
like you said, I think that was it.
I think the love of the country,
The love of the country,
the willingness to serve.
Yes, and
Powerful traits.
in family, also family.
Family, yes.
Family was very strong.
Will you please pronounce your name properly, your maiden name? Because I would have butchered it.
Well, when I was growing up, my name was Maria Braccio. And so when I joined the Navy, it was Mary Braccio. And, of course, then I got married, and now the name is Brackett, Braccio Brackett, because I never had a middle name.
Now, why didn't you have a middle name?
Because in Italy, you got your middle name when you had your confirmation. It was a Catholic country, and, a lot of the traditions in Italy I grew up with here. The little towns that I came from, they kind of carried on the way they were, as if they were. It was a mesh of
They loved
American
America.
culture and Italian culture.
They didn't
Yes.
forget their homeland culture.
Yes.
They integrated it.
Yes. And I'm actually passing it on to my children and my grandchildren. They would look forward to a lot of the traditions that I grew up with.
What were some of those?
Well, they're getting ready. They're looking forward to the Zeppeli at Christmas time.
Zeppeli?
Zeppeli, yes.
Okay. Please explain for us.
It's basically fried bread with sugar. It's almost like a donut. But different parts of the country in Italy had their own versions of it. Now, the little town in Calabria where my parents are from, it was basically make the dough homemade.
Always, right? Always homemade.
It's always homemade. And then you fry it. And then when it comes out, they roll it in sugar or cinnamon. Or actually, my mother would give us a little like custard cup with maple syrup, and we would dip it in the maple syrup and eat it.
I love
It was something sweet. But then the rest were kept plain, and you ate it with the fishes. Like we had the 7 fishes Christmas Eve, which my son is already picking out his fishes. And my nieces and nephews on my husband's side, they look forward to 7 fishes. And
now, was this
Christmas
Catholic
Eve.
from your home?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
from Italy?
it would be, the 7 fishes is, oh gosh, guess I should have looked it up.
No, you don't. No, this is your story.
It's
No.
like, well, I mean, it's like, just, I don't
That's
know
okay.
if it's like good luck
It's okay, we're gonna move
or
on.
what.
You just know it's important for the
Yes.
family and the traditions.
Yes, it's something we look at. It's all fishes.
And if we were talking elsewhere, you would have rattled off exactly what it was. It's just
Yeah.
this moment. You let it go and we move on.
So
Siblings and family. If you had siblings, you did, right? You were
yeah, I had,
you were the sixth.
I was no, my mother
The
and
mother and
father
father
were
were the
the
sixth.
sixth.
Okay.
I was the first,
Oh my.
and I guess coming here tonight, I realized that my life has been a series of firsts. Now,
Talk about it.
and I was the first grandchild on both sides of the family to be actually born here. And so I am a U.S. born American citizen, first generation,
Wow.
but I'm actually third generation American citizen, but first generation American born. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because, oh, I didn't get to tell you about my father's father.
Please do.
He worked on the railroads. He was partly responsible because then he became a crew chief. There's a picture of him. You know those railroad things that go up and down?
That they pump, right?
Yes. So there's a picture of that behind four men and my grandfather. And the four men are just standing there almost like at
They didn't smile.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Except my grandfather, he had his foot up on it and, you know, his arm like.
The boss.
Yes, he was.
They let it be
he
known.
was the crew chief, yes. My grandfather was feared.
I could tell he's a man's man.
Yes.
I could tell the way you're talking.
Yes, he was feared. He ruled. His father died young, and he was the eldest son.
What years was he in his primes, like fatherhood and
Well,
1920s?
he was older than my mother's father. He was born in 1885 or 86, and my mother's father was born in 1895. So there's about 10 years between my two grandfathers. But he, like I said, he worked on the railroad, and he worked on that line that went through Minnesota, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time
Cold.
yeah, it was cold. And he was from Italy, which is the same temperature as here in Jacksonville.
Holy mackerel.
Same temperature, no snow, that kind of stuff. But the first time he put his papers in was in Michigan, because I found it
Grand Rapids?
No, it's not Grand Rapids. Grand something. I don't know why up there everything's grand, but Grand Blanc or something like
Okay.
that. Anyway, that was the first time he put his citizenship papers in, but I don't remember what year he was. But like I said, it was.
That's okay. How long did he stay with the railroads?
That I do not know.
Was it a career? I mean, like a.
No.
Okay. So
No.
it was
He
more of
worked it
getting over
for-
there.
Yeah, he worked it for a while. He would get his citizenship.
Because that was hard labor.
Yeah, and this was really early. I think because he had to have come over before my mother's. I think my mother's father came over in 1913.
Yeah, there was no grievance boards back then.
No.
You
worked.
You worked.
And you ate beans, and you.
If you, with your siblings, I'm gonna change on you just a little bit. What relationships were they like growing up?
Well, I was born in 54.
Right.
My sister was born in 57, and my brother's in 58 and 59. So it was kind of like me, and then the three of them. So as the eldest and being a girl, I remember changing diapers and making a bottle for my youngest brother, who was a baby. There's a little more than 5 years between us. But at 6 years old, I was taking care of them. And even him, like I said, changing diapers and all that. You started off young. I mean, there was no no stopping. So, and that's how I learned to cook.
Who were you closest to out of all the kids?
My baby brother.
Oh.
Yeah. Maybe because I changed his diapers. I don't know.
It's tough as the oldest to. I mean, you're seen as, like you said. I mean, you're like mom too.
Yeah. I was mom's right hand.
Yep.
you know,
Especially back then. You were
yeah,
expected. It wasn't even talked about. You just
yeah,
did it. You cooked with her. You cleaned. You helped the
mm-hmm,
babies.
yep,
A lot of responsibility at a young age.
yep. Spring cleaning, canning. Although that was a lot of my favorites. My grandmother and my mother and I, my sister sort of helped. But in my grandfather, my father's mother, they lived with us for 5 years until he passed away. He passed away, like I said, I was 14, and in the house he passed away. He would grow this garden. It was amazing, and the tomatoes that would come out, and it was pear trees and apple trees, and and at the end of the summer, August and September, that's what we did. We canned. Now, something about Italians, they always have two kitchens. You had the upstairs kitchen, which was the good kitchen, and then you had
The workers' kitchen.
yes, then you had the basement kitchen. I, don't know of many Italians that didn't have a basement kitchen, and that's where we did all the canning and that
How
kind
many
of stuff.
cans in a month or two?
I
Hundreds?
remember one year, yeah, we made 150 jars of tomato sauce, tomato puree, tomato sauce.
Did you have time for friends?
Oh yes, yeah. My next door neighbor was Angela. She was a year older than I am. Her parents also were from the same town.
Did the cultures move together at that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. As a matter of fact, the town of Ambler is called. As even to today, it's the sister city of our little town Maida in Italy.
Oh.
So they have their functions at the same time, and I know one year because I still have family in Italy, and
What was the town like that y'all all grew up in? Since you're going to Italy, I want to keep you on that.
in Italy
Yes,
or
ma'am.
in Italy, I've been there 3 times.
But you've heard
And
1,000 stories.
oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the first time I went over,
Just your memories of it.
I was in the Navy, yeah, and my father came over because I was deployed to Sigonella, Sicily, and my father came over, and he and his sister and my cousin Maria, she was about 6 years older. He took me over there, and we're walking through the town, and he goes, "Oh, and this one over here, that's where your mother's cousin, and this one, this is my side of the family." And as we're walking along, I said, "Dad, is there anybody in this town that we're not related to?" He started laughing, and then we walked into this one house, and there was a wake going on. It was on my mother's side, and said, "Hey, how you doing?" I thought, and he's laid out right there in the living room. I'm like, "Holy crap!"
It was just a part of life, wasn't it? They taught you a
Yeah.
lot.
That's what I'm saying. This was 1989,
Wow.
and you think that they're caught up like we are? No, they still didn't have like central air or central heat or anything like that. It was kind of, you feel like you've been thrown back in time because they're still
Traditions as well, yeah.
yes, because they were still doing the things that my parents were doing. Where, like I said, we take so much for granted here that, like I said, I didn't realize how much further ahead we are.
Okay, let me ask you a quick couple questions. As a child, favorite smells or smells that you remember to this day?
Oh my gosh.
What comes to mind immediately?
Well, I have to say
Say it.
the sauce. Every Sunday was pasta day of some kind. And, every Italian household had, you had the pot of sauce going. You
None of
had
that canned
meatballs.
stuff, right?
Oh, no. Everything was, remember, we made our
Canned
own
them.
jars. And so
Right.
it would be that with the seasonings, and the meatballs would be in it. And then to sneak a piece of Italian bread and dip it in there. And, and you had to be careful you didn't stuff it in your mouth too quick because it was boiling hot, and you'd be caught because you'd be going, ow. But yeah, that tomato sauce, it was just like nothing like it.
At home, a beautiful sunny day, and you're going outside to play with your best friend next door. What noises do you hear on a Sunday afternoon?
Well,
It's been a good week, and you're in a great mood. The new bike and everything, and you're coming out.
well, back then like I said, there was no central air, and the windows would be open, so
Was
you
it a
would hear.
compact town? Was it wide open, suburban kind? Were
Well,
you
between our house and the neighbor's house, the two driveways, and the two driveways would be like side by
Yeah.
side, except there'd be just
So
like
you were
a
in
little
a
ridge there.
neighborhood.
Yeah, we were
Okay.
in it. We were in the suburbs.
Okay, gotcha. Not rural. Okay.
No, I mean some of our family lived down into the city, but we were.
Yeah.
I
So
had
cars and
family that
kids
was
and
in the
living.
row homes.
Row homes?
Well, now they call them town homes, but back then they were the row homes, and they've upgraded them, and now they're town homes.
Where'd you go to school? Elementary.
Went my first 8 years were St. Anthony's Catholic School.
Who was your favorite teacher, and what do you remember about him?
Well,
And
they were the nuns. There was 2 years I had lay teachers. There was Miss Jackie, and I think she was my favorite. She was all of our favorites because
What about her?
we went from grade to grade to grade.
Right.
The rest of the ones are nuns. Some were okay. Some were very scary. Most of them were very scary because you only saw this much of them. Their hands. That's it. The rest of them was all covered up.
Did you understand it back then? What you were involved in, the Catholic Church and school, and
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, because we
'Cause
were
of the
totally
traditions.
immersed in it.
yeah.
Actually, I thought everybody thought the way I thought until ninth grade when I had to go switch to public school. When I got to public school, I didn't have to wear a uniform, but it wasn't always a good thing because my mom didn't understand fashion very well. So sometimes I kind of got picked on, you know. Like
That's funny.
the other girls they'd be wearing these other cool things and I'd be wearing these awful things.
Well-
But so the uniform was kind of security.
Yeah.
I didn't have to think about what I was gonna wear.
Consistency.
Yeah, maybe that's why I liked the Navy because I knew what I was wearing.
Structure.
Yeah.
What were so in ninth grade you went out of the Catholic Church school? I mean the nun schools.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Me and my cousin Mariana. And the first time I got up, because I was Mary, she was Mariana, then there was Mary Kay and Mary Beth, all of us little Catholic girls.
That's fun.
So I get up, and what I did in Catholic school, we got up and we said our morning prayers. So when the first day we get up in homeroom, and I'm like this, and my Mariana hits me. She goes, Mary, we were saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I said, oh.
Did you have any big dreams back then?
I wanted to be an astronaut.
Now, where did that come from? Just
I don't know.
that's
I
okay.
think
It was the
Well, I
it was
tell
the
you what.
race back then.
it's the what?
It was the race and the
Yes.
space race.
Yes, and I remember I was always in Girl Scouts, and let's see, it was 1960. What year was it when they went on the moon? 1960 something.
69?
69.
69.
Yeah, 69. So I was like a junior or senior scout at the time, and there was 4 of us taking care of brownies. And I remember we were at the state park, and there was a radio, and they were talking. And they said, "We've just landed on the moon." I remember that.
Wow. So you were in your brownie outfit.
No, not. I was taking care of the brownies. We were
Gotcha.
doing arts and crafts with the brownies.
Understood.
I was either a cadet or a senior by that time. Cadet.
Gotcha. Yes.
And in the Girl Scouts, and I remember that.
What was
I
your
was a teenager.
What was your first job?
My very first job. I did a lot of babysitting. So I remember earning money doing that. I was a babysitter. And then by the time I became a senior in high school, I ended up being a nurse's aide. And I was in a nursing home as a nurse's aide. And at that time, we wore the same uniforms that the nurses did, except we didn't have the hat. Now, no nurses wear the
Right.
hats anymore, the nurse's cap. And So we wore the white with the white hose and the white shoes. And back then, there was no certification. You just went in and they said, okay, you get trained. I had one night of training and then I was pretty much on my own. It was either 1 or 2 nights that someone went with me, showed me how to
You mean
take
like
care of the
drawing
paint.
blood and everything?
Oh, no. Nurses' aides didn't do that.
Okay.
We were the poop cleaners, vomit cleaners. I worked the 3:30 till 11 shift. So when I got in, the first things that we were doing was helping them all to the dining room to eat dinner. And then we had a spoon feed the ones that couldn't go in that, were eating pureed food.
Takes a lot of patience.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Who
Some of them was
Who else
hard.
has patience in your family?
My daughter, she's a nurse, and I have a granddaughter that's a nurse. They all followed.
Love to
that.
help.
Yep.
How do you? Well, I know that. What were the important people in your life during the time of your young adult, like your first job and moving up into your 20s? Were there significant people in your life at that
My
time?
father was number one.
Was he around as much?
Oh yeah. My father was there. He taught me a lot of things that helped me in the Navy. I mean, there's a lot of wisdom that he passed on.
Such as?
Well, he told me, Maria, he said, if there's something bucking you here, he said, you find a way, you go through it. He said, if you can't go through, you go around this way. You can't go around that, you go this way, or you jump over. He says, but you get around it. He told me that. And
They spoke in very short wisdoms.
yeah.
Were the stories long that they gave you, or it appears that?
That you said about stories. We always had dinner as a family.
Every night?
Every night. So, and we always had to wait until Dad came out. I don't care how hungry you were, you waited until Dad got home. So sometimes we'd be sitting at the table, you hear him, oh, he's here. And we sit at the, but we wouldn't touch anything until he came through the door, washed his hands, and then came and sat at the table. We say grace, and then we would pass around the food and eat. At the end of dinner, we never actually got up right away. My mother would either peel a piece of fruit or she'd pass around some Jell-O, and my father would tell stories. Now, I don't know if you remember Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yes.
Okay, and then remember the fractured fables? And at the end, they would say, and the moral of the story is?
Yes.
My father would tell us a story. A lot of them were stories from Italy. A lot of them were real life stories. And that's how we got to learn about our background and who was who and
Oral sharing.
sharing.
Verbal sharing.
Yeah. Every night. And he would do that, or sometimes he would
Mom
make
jump
up
in?
a story. Oh, every now and again she goes, it wasn't quite like that. But no, mostly she just
What was she like?
stayed quiet. Mom, well, during that time, oh, wait, I didn't tell you.
Okay, please.
He would tell the story, and then he goes, and the moral of the story is, and then he'd make up something. So, Mom was a hard worker. Mom kept the house so clean. You could eat off her floors. But that meant I had to do a lot of work. Saturday mornings, I didn't run outside to play. It was like washing the floor, polishing waxing the floor. We had a wax. We had those wall radiators, that went around.
Yeah.
You got a rag, and you had your bucket, and you pushed the bucket along, and you wiped it all, and you dusted, and you vacuumed, and everything was always polished and shiny. And Mom was a great cook. I mean, it was,
Where were you all financially at that time? I mean, were you really tight, or were you just middle class, or?
We were middle class. Dad, oh, that's right. I did. Dad, in Italy before, my father was 19 and my mother was 12 when they came over. My mother came over in February 1948, and my father came in June of 1948. So my father was a master carpenter when he came over. So his first job was in a furniture factory. Okay, putting furniture. As a matter of fact, some of the furniture, our China hutch and all that, my father built that. And he also did things for the church, if they wanted shelves, and it was always very crafty. But then he went on to construction as a carpenter, and he became a foreman, which caused some problems because older men, he was 25 by this time, and older men were not liking the fact that here's this foreigner, even though he was a U.S. citizen as a baby, but they didn't understand that. And they thought they should have the position. But anyway, he and another guy from the same little town in Italy, they decided to branch off, and they did a partnership. And they had their own business. So they had their own construction business. They would build custom homes.
Wow.
And then they got big enough to where they split off, and they each had their own business. So
the
we were
American dream.
Exactly. He came over with nothing. As a matter of fact, there was a short while before he married my mom, he was living in the car. But like I said, he ended up with his own business. Mom never had to work.
Right.
And he spoiled Mom. He really did. And
he loved her.
I remember going back, and I had been in the Navy 10 years and going back, and I didn't realize, this is the first time I really saw the dynamic, between my mother and my father. It was Christmas time, and he took me, it was just me and him. We went to all these different places, departments, John Wanamaker's, Macy's, and he was looking for a specific doll. She liked dolls. So I said, well, what about this one? I saw this one, and it was like $100 and some. And back then, that was a lot of money.
$1,000. $1,000 today.
Yeah. But he saw this doll, and he said, that's the one. That's the one. And he went and got it. That doll was almost $500. And he paid cash. I'm like,
so y'all were not middle class. You were doing pretty well.
I guess we were upper middle class.
Upper middle.
Upper middle.
500 back then was,
I
that
know.
could be 15 to 10.
I was floored. I was absolutely, well, this is when I came back. See, I was 30.
So he wasn't a showy guy.
No.
Yeah.
But my father was like 5'5". But when he walked into a room,
big.
He was 6'10". Yeah. I'm telling you, and I don't care. And I remember this even before I joined the Navy. I remember this about my dad. No matter whose home he was in, he was always put at the head of the table. And he was referred to as the great Uncle Tony.
Wisdoms?
My father was, he was a very patient man. He had a very high tolerance of things, but if you crossed his line, you were in deep doo-doo, because he was very, very quiet, not quiet that he didn't speak, but his demeanor, he always had a calmness. Everybody looked at him. As a matter of fact, because he had that business, everyone that came over from Italy started with my dad as a mason, as a carpenter,
so he actually
as a
taught
laborer.
People.
Yes. And he would get them to where they built up, and they were able to go on and get their own homes. And yes. So he was like the godfather.
Wow. So he helped a lot of people.
Yes, he helped a lot of people. And like I said, they all looked at him, and they showed him that respect. I don't remember anyone ever, like I say, he was only 5'5".
But you could tell as a little child walking with him, you were holding his finger and proud as could be.
I was super proud of Dad.
Yeah.
Super proud. That's why I say I to this day I miss that man.
When did he pass?
Thanksgiving Day, November of 1991.
The tissue dropped on the ground. No, it's hanging right there. I ran and grabbed tissue. I knew we'd never talk.
Yeah.
1991.
Yeah.
How old was he?
He was 62.
Wow, that's young.
At the time, because I was young, I thought, well, he lived a good life. Then the year I turned 62, that entire year, I I couldn't stop thinking. I'm thinking 62. I'm 62. I felt so young. I mean, I still feel kind of young now.
Absolutely.
I feel more. But at that time, my husband and I were still cutting a rug, and that's dancing for people who
Yeah.
don't know. But we were still doing things, going camping and things. And I realized my father was young. My father was not old when he passed away.
Do you remember his? I mean, was it sudden or was
No,
it?
it was cancer.
It was long and drawn out, especially then. Do you remember that time in your life?
Yeah,
Was it rough for the family?
yeah.
Who
Yeah.
stepped up? Somebody, like mom and you and
Well, my mom was a very strong woman,
yeah.
even though she was spoiled.
And I imagine the family,
She-
the extended family, was around.
Yeah. Like I said, my father, when I was the only one of my siblings that was in Florida at the time, because I left Pennsylvania to come down to Florida because I had orders to the VP squadron. Let's see, June of '89.
While we're moving forward in this, walk me through your work or career journey, and we'll circle back around to this. Take me through your work career, like your main job that you did and retired from.
Well, I worked, my first real job was that nursing
Right.
aide. I did that for a whole year.
Right.
And I actually wanted to join the Navy when I got out of high school
Because of your grandfather.
because of my grandfather. I felt it was my duty as, like I said, I was the first grandchild born in this country on both sides of the family. And I felt it was my duty, to
Yeah.
give back. And originally I was only going to go in for my 4 years. And I ended up making it a career. But at that time, women under the age of 21 had to have parental consent, where guys at the age of 18, they could go in and sign themselves in. Well, my mother wasn't going to sign. Oh, no, you're not going to the Navy. Forget that. So I went on. I did a year of community college, and I worked as a nurse's aide for a year. And then when I was turning 19, Congress passed law, and women can now come in the same as the men at age 18. So I ran to the recruiter's office.
Was mom mad?
Oh, she didn't know.
Okay.
So I went to the recruiting office. I took the exam. They do a 30-minute exam in the office.
Right.
And he goes, oh, yeah, we need you. We want you. They had just opened up aviation electronics technician to women. They were just starting to open up. I actually joined as a wave. I was one of the last waves before they incorporated us into regular Navy. Now we're all sailors. But I was one of the very last waves. This was 1974. So I went down to take the full exam. They gave me a train ticket. I went down to Center City, Philadelphia, to the Navy. It was a military entrance processing station. MEPS is what they call it. And anybody that's joining any branch of service goes through this process. Then the first step is to take this 2-3 hour exam. Well, when I get there, this cracky old Master Chief, he says, oh, well, what do you want to be? And a Corps wave? And I said, no, I want to. He goes, oh, you want to be a yeoman? I said, no, I want to be. Well, what do you want to be? I said, I'm trying to tell you what I want to be. I said, I want to be an aviation electronics technician. He says, well, you got to take a test for that. I said, that's what I'm here for. So he makes this first class take me. He's an Italian. And he says, what's a nice Italian girl like you wanting to join the Navy? I said, I just feel it, man. I said, I feel it. This is what I need to do. So there was a group
true
of guys.
calling.
That was my calling. So there was a group of guys in a room. Well, he took me in a room by myself. So I went through the exam. I ended up finishing. The guys were still in there. And this first class says, you know what I said before? He said about what's a nice Italian girl like you want to join the Navy? I said, yeah. He goes, I changed my mind. We need you. I scored so high. So he takes me back to that same Master Chief. The Master Chief hadn't looked up. He puts my scores there. Master Chief says, "Oh, wow." And then he looks at me and he goes, "These her scores?" And the first class goes, "Yep." He goes, he gets the book and he hands it. He goes, "Anything you want, lady. Tell me what you want." I said, "I want to be an aviation electronics technician."
Where did that come from?
Um,
We know where the military came from, but where did that specific?
I didn't want to do just the typical women thing. And they were just opening this up
It was exciting.
to women. It was brand new. There weren't any. I was one of the very first ones. There's another first. I was one of the very first female ATs.
Were you consciously proud of that?
Well, at the time, I don't know that I was proud of it.
Yeah.
It was more of an excitement. It was more in oh my gosh, I'm getting a chance to do something.
An adventure.
Yes. So then I had to go back for the physical.
How old were you?
I was 19. No. Yes, I was 19.
So, this is early life.
Yeah.
Early career.
I was 19. Because like I said, I couldn't go in when I was 18. So
What parts of that job did you take the most pride in?
As an AT?
Mm-hmm. What did you enjoy the most?
Well, in my early career, I went to NES Lemoore. That was my first duty station. I was the first woman ever in there. I was working with all men.
Another first.
Another first. Yeah, they never had a woman assigned there before. I actually went into the Navy as an E3. You start as an E1. E1 through E9 are the pay grades. I started as an E3 because I had college and I was in the advanced electronics program.
Mm-hmm.
So I jumped. I didn't have to see E1 or E2. I was already E3 and I was able to make E4 and become a petty officer, which gives you certain privileges.
Sure.
So what did I start to say? Oh, what did I like about the job?
Yeah.
It was when I got to Lemoore, I was a 6611 tech, which is a ComNav, communications navigations. So I was working on A7s, radios, control boxes, beacon radios in their navigation, but mainly the ARC 51 radios, which at that time they still had, tubes and things like that. But
pulling and plugging.
Well, actually, no, it was the Loran that had the ones. I would get myself in the screen room because you didn't want any RF going out, and I would turn off the light and just turn it on and see which ones were glowing. Real technical, but it was thrilling to me that I was actually working on equipment that were essential to a pilot's mission. If he couldn't communicate,
you took it serious.
Yes, I did. I was very serious about it. As a matter of fact, I would go in, turn my benches on, get my tools out and all that. And while the guys are talking, they're having. So one day, the second class came over. He turned off all the power to my bench. He goes, "Now get over there and get a cup of coffee with the rest of us," because, I was too serious.
You were a worker bee.
Yes. Yeah. I was just,
Who do you remember as one of your officers that carried a lot of weight with you and taught you things?
It wasn't actually an officer. It was my supervisor.
Tell me about him.
It was Petty Officer Don Holtz. He was a first class petty officer, and he was like a dad to me. As a matter of fact, he retired 2 years after I got there, which kind of upset me, because he really took me under his wing. He protected me. He was not protecting me in the fact that,
away from all the other seamen.
Yeah, or to undo mistakes if I made any, but he
Guidance
just made sure,
giving you more guidance, and
like if somebody was inappropriate, or he always.
That's a great at that time in the world, there were not many females that were doing what you did, or were there even that many females on the boats or in the offices?
There was none on the boats. When I joined the Navy, women made up 1.5% of the entire Navy. I would walk around the base and not see another woman.
Did you use that to your advantage? Like, I mean, did they give points for, you know, how they do nowadays? I mean, did you have advantages to
No.
help? So you technically had disadvantages working through. Tell me about some of those. Because, I mean, this is important. This is you as
Yeah.
a female and
Yeah.
many of your firsts. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Well, let's see. I said I joined in 1974.
Mm-hmm.
The first sexual harassment instruction that delineated the do's and don'ts was 1984.
Wow. So
And
20 years?
yes, no, 10.
I'm sorry, 10 years. Sorry.
Yes, 10 years. We
Of a
walked
free
the
for
line.
all.
Yeah, we walked the line.
We meaning the females?
The females. Now, some of them tried to simulate like being one of the guys, like doing the cigarettes or maybe like talking the way they did. That wasn't me. Yeah. I did not use those words. I was not raised that way. As a matter of fact, one time I said, "Oh, poo," and my supervisor goes, "Poo?"
In the military?
But no, I didn't do that. Others, they try to use their bodies or their looks or whatever.
And I was more, I was really leading more towards the negative side and the struggles that you had as a female growing through. Although the military was great for you and supportive, but there were struggles. They were learning.
Yes, and there was two types. Like, not long after I got there and I was in the shop, there was a second class. I'll never forget him. He was from Nevada. He made sure I said it right, Nevada. Anyway, he literally got in my face and said, "You're messing up my man's Navy." Wow. He says, "I don't like," and he would say off things sometimes, you know, and he was supposed to train me on that radio, and so it was awkward.
What did it teach you?
Not to react.
That's a powerful tool.
I did not react. I didn't say much of anything. There was another one that he would try to say things. They would have conversations and, you know, use different words, but I would just focus on what I was working on at the time. And then one time, the conversation was getting to a point. It's like, usually what I would do is exit. Like, I'm going to the bathroom on the head. Right. And or I was going to go get a cup of coffee. But so this one time he stopped me at the door. He got in front of me. He goes, well, you know, you never say anything. You know, you just leave. You're just over there. He says, I know you have an opinion on it. He said, you know, do you really think that, you know, because he was trying to say men being better than women. I said, no, I don't think women are better than men. He goes, you don't? I said, no. We're above you now, so why should I come down to your level? And he just said, and the guys were going, whoa, she got you. And I walked out. Said, oh, and did that? Well, they didn't attack me anymore.
A little bit of your father right there.
Exactly.
I heard it.
Exactly.
Spoke less, but when he spoke, when you crossed that line.
And another individual, he was so crass. And he came in with trash bags that were kind of still hooked together. And he goes, oh, this is the biggest prophylactic, you know. And, you know. Well, I was on the pistol team. I never shot before. And part of your practical factors to go up to the next rating to make, I was E3 and I went to make E4. It said, qualify with 45. And in parentheses, it said men only. I said, why is it men only? And that supervisor that I told you was like my father, he said, did you ever shoot? I said, no, I've never shot before. He said, do you want? He said, okay. He says, tomorrow we're going to go out there to the range. Why? What I didn't know is he's a master shooter, and he would shoot on the pistol teams each year. Each year we had a pistol match in the different divisions, the different commands, and even with the Marines. So he takes me out and he starts me with a 22, and he tells me what to do, and I did it, and it went right on the target. He goes, you've shot before. I said, no, that was my very first time I ever shot a gun. He says, do that again. He says, okay. He takes the 22, gives me a 45, makes me shoot. Well, that French guy, his name is Levesque. He learned that I was shooting. He goes, you're shooting? He said, I'll stand in front of you with an apple on my head anytime. I said, okay. I didn't say nothing. Went out on the range. I shot, we would do 10 rounds. All of them were in black except for one.
Wow.
It was in the 5 ring for some reason. So I said to Holtz, I said, can I take my target today? He said, sure. He went down, he took it off, gave it to me. I rolled it up, went back into the shop, unrolled it, put it, Levesque was working. And he goes, oh, wow. And he goes, then he looks up at me. I said, you still want to stand in front of me with an apple on your head? Because I ain't aiming at the apple. Never bothered me again.
Wow.
That's how I had to handle it.
So you had to wait for your moments.
I waited for my moments. That was the thing. It was, like I said, keep quiet.
Yeah.
If I kept quiet, the moments always came. And even on up the line, when I became a chief, I was in...
What year was that?
I made chief in 88, September of 88. Oh, no, I take that back. This guy, this was when I was a first class. I made it to first class. I was in the Philippines. We were going back. Reagan was in, and they were going from a 300 ship to a 600 ship Navy. So recruiting was priority. I wanted to go company commander and train baby boots. But with Reagan in, recruiting was a priority. And when you go recruiting, they send you back hometown because you know the schools, you know other people. It made sense. So I had been gone 10 years, and now I find myself back in my old stomping ground and go back to school. And some of the teachers actually remembered me, which was wonderful.
Were you proud?
Oh, yeah. I had good relations, especially my world cultures team. He was just so pleased to see me in uniform. And
Had your mom softened a little bit?
she did, because when I made chief, because I made chief while I was on recruiting, I made her pin one of my anchors on. So she pinned one side and my husband pinned the other. Normally you have the commanding officer pin it. I said, no. I said, my mother will be pinning mine. I was the only female making chief that day.
Another first.
Another first, yes. Where was I?
That's okay. Let me ask you.
Well, I was going to tell you something. I forgot now. Where was I at? Oh, the recruiting.
You were recruiting, and your mom, and you went back to town for after 10 years.
Yeah, but there seemed like there was something you had asked me that I
And
feel like I didn't answer.
You went in the schools, and a lot of them remembered you, and you were proud.
Yeah, but there was something before that.
It's okay. What I find is, if it's really meant, it'll pop back up.
Okay.
And it'll come back around. If you could give your younger working self advice, what would you say? A little 19 to 25-year-old. She's curious.
That's right. Not to have been so naive, because there were a couple times where things could have been much worse for me because I was so naive. See, prior to going to the Navy, I had sort of a boyfriend, but he lived in Girard College, and it was a home and school for fatherless boys, and we mostly wrote letters. So I didn't really do the dating thing. I wasn't very savvy on guys and, what could happen.
Right.
So there were times where I was in situations, and I looked back and I thought, how did I not end up
in trouble?
In trouble, or in a worse way than...
Were there friends around you that would help or call you out? I mean, did you have those real special friends in the military?
Yeah. I think that I started saying before, and it's like there was two kinds of sailors. One group resented me being there, and another group that wanted to see me make it.
Right.
So
not much in between, huh?
No, really not. Um, and so whenever I got assigned to a duty station when I first got, I would the first 2 weeks I would just watch and listen, figure out
The dynamics.
yeah who was what, you know. I had one guy come up to me, and apparently, he was um, a Christian, nice family man, and he goes, "I just want to thank you for being here." I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, since you've arrived," he said, "things have been nicer. People are a little more civilized because they're trying to watch their mouth a little bit more." And I realized that as a man, they can't really say anything because then they would be,
Ridicule.
ridiculed, um, and attacked.
Yeah.
You know how
Yes.
guys are, if they're bullies, they can, even in service, they do. I've seen them do that. Um, so that was kind of neat. So I was starting to realize a lot of things that
Mm-hmm.
as a female, I had disadvantages, yes, but I also had power,
Yes.
and I made changes. Um, so
Changes in the way that you handled your staff once you moved up.
yeah, yeah, I did. They used to call me Chief Mom. Even when as a petty officer, they would say, "It's like you're our mom." Um, as a third class, I was in charge of the color guard. We had an all-female color guard
Oh wow.
and a male drill team, and we would do parades. This was when I was assigned in Lemoore, California.
How many years in is this in your career?
When I was in the
Color guard. Yes, ma'am.
3.
Oh wow. So that was relatively. You moved up pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah, I did.
So they went from firsts to having an all female. Tell me a little about that. There's a transition in the
all-female color guard.
military
Yeah, it was
for them to have more females in there now within a 3 to
Yeah.
5 year span.
But we were still wearing the wave uniform. No, I can tell you about
Okay.
it. Me and Millie, because we were older, we were wearing the wave uniform. The 2 newest girls, they were wearing the new
Explain the
changeover,
wave.
the new wave.
Explain the wave uniform.
The wave uniform was a serge blue. We had gold buttons. On our lapels was embroidered the propeller, and not propeller. It would be a ship's screw, actually,
Right.
the screw that,
Right.
and an anchor over it. So there was the propeller with an anchor embossed over it. Well, they don't wear that anymore. The newer girls, their uniforms were black with silver buttons and no
What did it
embellishment.
signify? Was it just an old program that they were fading out?
The waves?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was the Women's Auxiliary Volunteer Emergency Services.
There you go.
We were not actually sailors.
Ah.
So we were waves. And I remember the paraphernalia because when I was wanting to be a wave, like I said, when I first came out of high school, I wanted to join right away. And all our paraphernalia, I kept it. It's like the women are with, my boot camp was like a glorified charm school. Okay. We had to have our gloves and our purses on and our hats on at all times when you were in uniform. And we wore girdles. That was part of our sea bag. Yes, girdles.
You didn't even think about it, did you?
No, because I was wearing them anyway.
Okay.
We wore that or garters.
Right.
There was no pantyhose. It was you had to put the stockings with the little thing.
You nurses.
So when we were, another first. I remember getting there in Orlando, and they had just moved the women's boot camp from, it used to always be Bainbridge, Maryland. And they put us down in Orlando because they were getting ready for the change.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the next morning, we were in this auditorium, and the commanding officer, now they get you up like at 5:30 in the morning. So, and you're marched to this place. So I'm in this auditorium, and then it's like, okay, now I'm waking up. And I hear him saying, "This is a historic moment. This is a historic day. And I didn't understand the meaning of that until years later. Our female company was commissioned with a male company. We were brother and sister company. They never had that before.
Wow.
It was the first time. We were the first female company ever to go through the tear gas chamber.
That's another first.
Yes. Women never went through the tear gas chamber before.
You were proud of that.
And yeah, well, we look like clowns coming out because they're scared. And we
All the
also
snot hanging out.
and we also were the only ones first. We were the first female company that were able to touch and handle the 45s, but we weren't allowed to shoot them. So we were allowed to take them apart and put them back together. Because, like I said, when I went to my first command, I had never shot a gun, but they wouldn't allow us to shoot them. But we got to touch them.
Wow.
So we, like I said, we were the first female company to be commissioned with it, but we still had remnants of the old. So there was some new things incorporated into our agenda, but we still had to wear bright red lipstick.
Oh, they dictated the color.
Yes, it was red or a bright pink if you were blonde.
No.
I am not kidding you. If we did not have our lipstick on, we were out of uniform. And we had all our money in this little purse on a chain, and we had to tuck it in our bra.
What about nails?
Well, I'm getting to it.
Okay.
So they tuck it in there. So we had the girdles, we had the money in there and tucked strongly in our bra. Because ladies, you are now allowed to jiggle or jingle.
Ah.
We were ladies. And we did not remove our cover, our hats, until we were properly seated. So we had our gloves, which they don't issue gloves anymore. Women don't wear them. So, and we had those old seersucker blue uniforms that came out. Oh, they made you look really nice. And then we had to switch to the men's uniform, which made us all look dumpy because we have hips, the men don't, you know. So it was really, yeah, I mean, you weren't allowed to jiggle or jingle. So, like I said, we were, and then I felt sorry because even though now they, like I said, the men and the women do everything together.
Right.
And there's changes on both sides. We always had a ditty bag, which was really a men's shaving bag. And we always had it on our left hand, and we had, you know, where the handle is of the shaving bag, our hand was like that. So we always marched with it, and everything went in there. Our chits, which is your papers that you have to carry around,
Right.
and anything we may have needed went in that. I looked over at our mail company when we went to get our shots and stuff. Their papers were pinned to their shirts.
So they wouldn't lose them.
And we were never made to like drop and do push-ups, where our mail company, if something went wrong, they did. We were never embarrassed as women.
Right.
Like I said, we started incorporating some of what the men were doing because we were commissioned with the first brother and sister, but it wasn't totally crossed over yet.
Did you like the differences?
I was fascinated by it all. I remember being intrigued about, you know, like I said, you know, not realizing that the men were so different. We had our hair, my hair was waist long. And we were looking at our brother because they would come out of the barber, they would just buzz it off. And every one of them, as soon as they came out of that chair, they went, their hands went up to their heads, and they looked ugly.
Did you have those special people in your life throughout your career, or did you meet your husband early on, or a little bit about your personal life and dating and relationships on the love story side?
Well,
and this is your story. This is not a Jerry Springer. This is, you get to tell your story, and like where you met your husband, how you met him, you know, whatever you want to share.
well, like I said, from boot camp.
Yeah.
I went to Memphis, Tennessee. It was actually Millington, Tennessee, was right outside of Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
That was where my training was. And again, I was the only woman in my class because there were no female ATs before. And there were some Marines because they, trained with us. So here we are in there, and um, I got to where I would just pretend I had blinders on, and because when I walked from one building to another, from the school to the barracks, from the barracks to the chow hall, it was like cat calls all the time. We had one Waves barracks, and all around us were all the men's barracks. Our barracks was always locked, except for the bottom door. Now, I lived on the second day, and once an hour, the watchstander would come out and check each one, and then you would go, or you have to go in there and say, hey, how much longer to your next round? And she'd say 20 minutes. So you just sit there with her. Otherwise, you'd be out with the wolves. So I had 7 proposals of marriage. Yeah. It was inundating. I mean, and
Did you enjoy
Iranians
it?
were there.
I
Iranians.
mean,
No,
as
it
far
was
as the attention,
overwhelming because
okay.
I went from never dating and not really having that type of life to, so I thought I was unattractive. So, and here, it's like you're models because you have all this attention, and it's overwhelming. It really is. That's why I used to go, just without it. But there was one sailor that, he was a little more persistent, but he would make me laugh. And it got to where we were seeing each other and things got more serious, and we ended up getting married. So here I was, not even out of my schooling yet. I had only been in the Navy 3 months. No, longer than that. I had been at the school 3 months. But I came straight from, I joined in May. So this was around October that we got married.
Wow, that's quick.
So yeah, but I figured if I got married, then I could say, I'm married, wear my ring, you kind of ward off things. So, but
So y'all married fast.
yes.
Any kids in that
I was
marriage?
20. Yes. My daughter, Michelle.
Okay.
And, but I was 7 months along. We were married about 4 years. And it turned out he was alcoholic, drug, abuser, and things just kept getting worse. And when I was expecting, I knew I had to make a decision.
That's tough.
It is. I did get help for myself. Actually, my supervisor, he goes, hey, you need to come here, and he took me to his house, and his wife was there, and she talked to me, and then
Wow.
from there, she took me to my first Al-Anon meeting, and it was like a relief. It wasn't, because I was literally going crazy. My personality was changing, from the effects. I'm at home. It was like I was one type of person at work and a different type of person at home. And I realized I was really going crazy. And I knew my child needed at least one sane parent and not 2 crazy parents.
Wow, you got there on your own, or was that with the help of Al-Anon?
I think something in me started it, but
Yeah.
it was Al-Anon.
It was the other people. It was
Yes.
really more people
Yes,
being able to share the ideas.
The
and
more I talk, the more I realized.
finding commonality in that.
Yes.
Yeah.
That I
Realizing
wasn't
you're
by
not
myself.
alone.
Right.
Yeah. That wait, other people have the same issues.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
'cause
And I learned how to react or not react.
compartmentalize is
Yeah.
the word that keeps jumping out at me.
Yeah.
You're very good at compartmentalizing.
Yeah. Because even the master chief, he goes, I had no idea. He says, the way you are here, he said, I had no idea you had these issues, But I had her, like I said, I was 7 months along, sent him on his way.
Got a beautiful daughter out of it.
And yeah, she was just like me. My
Yeah.
mom flew out when she was born, and she grabbed it from her. She goes,
Her first grandchild?
yes. Yes, I had the first grandchild.
There's another. You got me looking for him now. That's awesome.
I said it's a series of firsts.
So Mama was very proud.
Yeah.
How old was she when she met her first granddaughter?
She was in her 40s, because Mom was 18 when I was born.
Did she come out all ladylike, dressed to
Oh,
the nines?
yes.
To the day she
of course.
passed? Was she always dressed up?
Yeah.
That's special.
But yep.
So she met the granddaughter?
She met the granddaughter, and she called my father because she had flown out herself, and she goes, "Oh, Tony, I went back 20 years," or she just, or 24 years. I was 23 when I had her, and she said, because my daughter looks exactly like me.
Strong genes.
Yes. And her daughter looks exactly like her. So the three of us.
Is your dad in you as well, feature-wise?
Yeah.
Dad or mom?
Yeah. I think I'm a blend of both of them, but I think I favor my mother more in looks.
What about personality?
No.
More
No,
dad?
We're pretty much, yeah. I have dad's personality. I have mom's looks, but dad's personality. Where I can be more rational, more calm, more analytical.
But not afraid to speak your mind?
No.
Yeah.
No.
The military teach
When
you
I
that?
need to.
Yeah. Well, your dad taught you that timing.
Yes.
It's pretty special. I would say that your dad taught you more than the military before you got to the military.
Yes, exactly. There was something else he told me too, but right at this moment I can't recall it.
So,
And then talking to my little brother, he said, "Yeah, before I left, Dad told me that too." So, yeah, Dad.
he had sound wisdom.
Yes, he did, but he had to. He I don't want to get too much into his story, but there was things that he went through that made him strong.
Yeah. Trials do that.
Yeah. Well, my parents lived through the war. They lived through World War II.
Right.
Because they didn't come over here until 1948. And
wow.
Yeah.
In Italy.
In Italy. My father was telling me, there's a movie, I can't remember the name of the movie. He says, yeah, that's based on what happened to us.
Probably
he said,
Band of Brothers.
The
one on HBO.
No, it's not that one. It's one with the airplanes. He said what would happen was it would be nighttime. They would basically, a lot of them would be in bed. The American planes would come over, drop the flares. He said the night would be like daytime. He said, and everybody knew they had to get out of the buildings because the next pass was going to be bombs. And they would be bombing buildings. So they would run out of the building and go down. The whole town was on top of a mountain. Wow. So they would go out of the town and down into the woods, to hide, because they knew the next pass was going to be, and buildings were bombed.
And they not as strategic.
And they were U.S. citizens.
And not as strategic as they are today.
No.
Any family members that I'm sure?
No, they all survived.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, they survived. But it was hard. Yeah. And
so you go through a marriage. How long before you met your next significant love?
Ben.
Ben? It was Ben.
Yeah, it was Ben.
Ben's
so let's see. Like I said, I was 7 months on. I had her, and for 3 months, all I did was go, because I was nursing her too. All I did was go work to home, home to work, because military women only got 4 weeks. That's it. Go back to work. 28 days. Go back to work. It was funny there was another girl, Charlotte, and Millie. All three of us were pregnant. We had been there a couple of years, and all three of us ended up having our firsts almost within just weeks of each other. It was really strange.
So that helped when you were going through all the nursing, I would imagine, right? You're all going through it at the same time.
Yeah, and there was always couches in the women's room. All the ladies' rooms back in those days, in case we had the vapors, always had couches. So we would get in there and pump, and I would leave milk with the babysitter, and then pick her up and go home and have her all night and do it again the next day. So it was, she was born in May. So in September 2nd of 1978 is when Ben started calling me, and he asked me out.
Where'd y'all meet initially?
He came to my house.
I mean, how did he even see you initially?
This is a long story.
This is your story.
Okay. I told you about my ex,
Yes.
and I told him he had to leave.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he goes, it's not you, it's me. He actually went into a 6-month recovery program. It was called the Pioneer House.
Okay.
Well, when I dropped him off, the house manager was Ben Brackett.
Huh. From sick to healthy.
And he had been there since January. So, and this was April. And so when I had Michelle May 9th, she wasn't due actually until June 10th. She came a month early. So for him, he was already in the house, and he was the first 30 days, you're not supposed to have any contact.
Right.
But I was pretty much chucking him off my list. But anyways, he had to be escorted to the hospital to see the baby.
Right.
So Ben was one of the escorts. I forget who the other gentleman was.
Interesting time in
Yes.
life.
So they come here, and I'm showing the baby through the window, you know. And then in August, my ex was very good at manipulating me and conned me to help the house in giving him $200. And the house was going to pay me back because they were wanting to buy a car. And I, stupid me, did it. And then a couple days later, I called. Ben answers the phone. I said, yeah, let me talk to Gary. And he goes, Mary, I hate to tell you this, but he's not here. I said, excuse me? I said, wait. I said, oh, come on, Ben, stop clowning around, you know. He says, no. He said, seriously, he's not here. He took off. You know. So about 5 days later, my mother-in-law calls me, and she says, Mary, do you know where Gary's at? I said, no, Mom, I really don't. She goes, she was in Texas. She said, well, he's here, and he's not alone. I went, oh. And she said to me, you do what you have to do. She said, I can't speak for my son. She said, but you do what you have to do, and you will always be a daughter to me until the day she died.
Wow.
About, I don't know, 6 years ago. Wasn't that long ago.
She was always around.
She was there. Me and Ben and the kids, even the 2 new ones that we had together, we went to Texas to visit her. If she gave $20 to Michelle, she gave it to his son.
Wow.
Our son, Benji, my stepson, and the 2 new ones. She said for all of them to call her Mima. She was the most wonderful woman.
What was her name again?
Ruth.
Ruth.
Yeah. And it was funny because the next day, 2 of his brothers, his younger brother and older brother, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, they both called me, and each of them said basically the same thing. He ain't my brother no more, but you'll always be my sister. And they held true to that.
Wow.
His sisters held true. They see me and they come and hug, and you know, I think because they knew.
Yeah.
So
it's a rough time, and yet you ran into Ben.
Yeah.
And so
well, like
so
I
he
said,
calls on
he called.
Yep.
So what happened was, like I said, this was like early on. I filed for divorce, and I filed for divorce, and I said,
were
okay,
you the
this is
first
it.
in your family as a female to file for divorce?
Yes.
There's a first.
Not a great first, but yeah, it was a first.
Actually, hang on. I know this is your story, but maybe it is a good one. We'll see.
Actually,
we'll see how you ended up. We're gonna find out here in a minute. So Ben.
So Ben, you know, he called, and he first started with some phone calls, you know, called back and forth and all, and you know, when I was going through the divorce, and then he asked me out, and then he said to me, and this was what floored me. He goes, yeah, he says, remember when me and I forget who the other guy was brought Gary to the hospital? He said, because he had 3 boys and he always wanted a girl.
Oh.
He said, when I looked through that window and saw you holding that baby, he said, I was jealous of Gary. I said, what? I said, but you never said anything. He says, well, you guys are married. He says, but now that I hear that you're going through a divorce. So we went out on a date. And it was funny because I didn't realize how short he was. Gary was taller, so I had like 2-3 inch heels and stuff. So he came over to the house first. I made lasagna, and
Your go-to meal.
my go-to meal, and he took a little square about this big, and I'm like, I'm used to guy eating a third of the pan, you know. I said, that's all you want, don't want any more. So, I thought, okay, that's one thing I'm not going to like. He doesn't eat. And then we went to the movie and we saw Grease. Grease had just come out.
Oh, my.
So we watched Grease. And then we went to the Holiday Inn, had a nightclub. Mm-hmm. So we went there. And as we're waiting, I noticed 2 things. Number one, everyone was pretty much as old as I was. And I was in my 20s and he was in his 30s. He was 36. And he was short, and I'm like trying to scrunch down. When we danced, I took my shoes off. And he kept calling after that. And one of my girlfriends said, oh, you'll end up marrying him. I said, oh, no way. I literally said that. We've been together 47 years.
Wow. 47
years. I had orders to Spain. He says, well, just tell him you're not going. He wanted to get married. I thought, man, this is too fast because I left in October.
Right.
And so when I left, I thought, okay, yeah, this is over. He's not going to. Do you know in January, he flew from California to Spain, 10,000 miles, never been out of the country before, with a ring.
Wow. Committed?
I said, this man's serious.
Dead serious. Wow.
We got married, like I said.
Where did he ask you to marry him?
Well, he asked me the first time it was in California.
First time?
Yeah, because remember, I left.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Because I said yes, but when I left, I thought, he's going to change his mind. We're thousands of miles apart.
Right.
But when he came to Spain, he was there, I don't know, maybe 9-10 days.
Did he get a job? Or did he just...
In Spain?
Yeah, I mean...
No, he was just there for a visit.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
He was working in California.
Okay.
And that's when he actually had the ring. And he bought it in this little jewelry shop. It was Ed's TikTok watch and jewelry.
Wow.
And we have a picture of us standing in front because years later we went back and there was the Star restaurant next to it. And we took a picture and I realized, oh my gosh, where he brought the ring to come to Spain, it's in the picture. Ed's TikTok shop.
Wow. That is awesome.
I know. And then he got into this thing with Michelle because he absolutely loved. And see, I knew he was going to be the one because Michelle is very intuitive, even when she was just a few months old. Mm. And when he would come in the room, she would go like this. Mm. She gravitated towards him. And that was always my fear.
Right.
I didn't think I was going to get married again because I knew others that, the stepfathers and daughters and as a matter of fact, one of my dear friends in the squadron, she was also a chief. She was flown home early because of that very reason. So when I saw the bond between them as father and daughter, and then he adopted her. Mm. So yeah, he loved her and even his own sisters would forget that biologically she wasn't his. But emotionally,
that's a special
mentally,
guy that can do that.
Yes.
Especially even at that time, the stigma was still there.
Yeah.
Way more than it is even today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then we had Marita, who was ours together, and she was born 17 months after Michelle. So wow. Yes, he moved fast.
Yes, he did.
And then we had our son 2 years after that. But when she was born, he was happy. And then when Anthony was coming along, because this is before you can find out what it is.
Right.
He was hoping, because he had 3 boys,
Right.
he wanted 3 girls. And so when Anthony came out, he goes, "It's a boy." But then he was like, I didn't know where to. He said, "Oh, Mary, you should see him. He has my look. He looks just like me, And then when he took me home from the hospital, he said, "I'll be back." And him and the baby, he left again. I said, "Where are you going?" He took that baby boy and he showed him to his workers, to his friends,
Oh.
and Ben loves children. Ben just is just so happy, to be a dad, and he's a dad 6 times over.
Wow, that is special.
Yeah, he.
What did the 47 years, and it can be anywhere in there, it can be multiple things, it can be one thing. I mean, what did being that long together with someone and that committed teach you in life? Obviously a lot of things, but there'll be some heavier things.
Well, the very first thing that he said to me, for one thing, I think because he was older, there's 12 and a half years between us. So I hung on to that,
Right.
looking at him as having, because he would know things and think of things that I didn't.
Right.
Like I said, I was still pretty young. Sometimes it was awkward for me because when he was with his friends and men and women, I felt left out.
Right.
But I grew into it. And but the first thing he said when he asked me to marry, he says, "I want you to promise me something before you're my wife, before you're the mother of my children." He said, "I want you to be my best friend." So
That's special.
and I didn't realize it. I mean, we had arguments, but you know how some people are their arguments can be really ugly. My daughter Marita, when she was like 9 or 10, she goes, "You and Daddy are funny." It was after we had a little disagreement, and I said, "What do you mean we're funny?" She goes, "Well, you can see that you're mad, but you guys say funny things." And then I realized, because usually what would happen, usually he says something weird, and then I would laugh, and he goes, "Oh, see, I knew you weren't mad." I said, "I'm laughing, but I'm still mad at you." And that's what it was, kind of like the first one who laughs loses. And so I think that's what it is, because what happens when you start laughing is that initial,
Yeah.
tension is kind of drained away a
Did
little
y'all
bit.
consciously do this? I mean, did you
In the beginning, no. It wasn't until my daughter pointed that out that I realized that's what was happening, because she said, "You guys are funny when you argue."
who else was like that in your past? Was there anybody else that emulated that? And there may not be.
I think my father a little bit.
I would believe that.
My father, because
I didn't want to
my father
lead.
would do. Yeah, my father. Now that you're saying it, I'm thinking about it, because he would get me. My mother would get me, and she'd step out of the room, and he goes.
He'd always crack something to cut the ice.
Yeah. He says, "Your mother," or
Do it.
just,
Your mother's a little.
yeah, or like sometimes just a look,
Oh, that's funny.
It's
And
just,
yet he was a boss outside those doors, and, and he took off the masks that he needed outside to be that boss in that era.
Yes.
And would be vulnerable with you guys, as vulnerable as a man would be at that time.
Exactly.
Because it was a different time.
Yes, it was. In the 50s and 60s, the man was the man.
There wasn't a lot of jumping in the bed and coddling with the kids. I mean, they would do it. Yeah, I mean, it was.
No.
Yeah, there was the stories though that was the endearing things of the father, and the mom would circle around and take care of all the other. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, mom was expected to do all of that, but she didn't work outside the house. The house was her job.
Yeah. If you speaking of your mom and parenting, and we're in that, you became a parent. What surprised you most about raising children?
You don't realize sometimes when you're the child, how you're doing and how certain things hurt or affect. And then my daughter was doing something. This was mainly when they're teenagers. And I remember calling my mom, "Mom, I'm so sorry." She goes, "What are you talking about?" And I just goes, my daughter was doing the same thing, and I realized, oh my gosh, I said that same thing. I said the same thing to my mom. And when you're on the other side,
Yeah.
it's a totally different view.
Yeah.
And what's funny is not too long ago, my daughter Michelle said the same thing to me. She goes, "Mom, I'm just so sorry. I see it now." Because her son, Dylan, was a teenager. And she said, "I'm so sorry. I apologize I see now. I was a brat." It's funny. And like I said, you can't see it as a child.
Yeah. So true.
And those who never have children never experience that. They never get that other side. And I think it makes a difference as who you are as a person. Because then I think you can let go of some stuff.
Yeah. Even unsettled stuff.
Yeah.
What do you feel proud about when you think of your family today?
Me and my husband and my children.
Yeah,
I'm
whatever you
proud
think of
all of
family.
them. Like I said, I have 3 stepsons, and I've always considered them mine.
Right.
So we have 6 really great kids.
That's pretty rare to have all 6.
Yeah. I mean, we hear horrible stories.
Yeah.
With other families and grandparents, and they're raising their grandkids, and we're like, no,
We dodge the bullets.
It's like, no, we're not there. Not to say that there aren't little situations and problems.
You're here to support.
But we realize that, okay, our problems are nothing compared to what we're hearing. So overall, I mean, we don't have any.
You did a good job.
Drug issues?
Yeah.
Well, I hope so.
No, it's not hope. I'm telling you from the outside. I mean, 6 kids, and they are all good members of society, and and their children. I mean, that's a blessing that few can say.
I mean, there's one that goes like this, but
Yeah.
but not that where they're
Yep.
in serving time.
I would
or
dare say I would probably have
addicted.
done that. Yeah,
Huh?
it's just life sometimes. We
Yeah.
all are a little different, and yet you're there to support each one of them on their own,
Yeah.
on their own world that they live in. It's pretty special.
Yeah.
Do you and Ben compromise often, or does one just let the other lead?
I think we compromise.
Yeah.
I mean, there are times where he may say, "Oh no, absolutely not," and same here. But for the most part, I mean,
he was he was a different kind of guy back then, though, because he wasn't trying to be that alpha guy, but he wasn't a sissy either. I mean,
no,
he had a balance to him,
yes,
like your daddy.
yes.
Hmm.
He admired my dad too. He loved my dad.
Tell me about that a little bit. I mean, did they have a relationship? Were
They
they
had
near
a
each other?
good relationship. My father used to call him, because his name is Ben. He goes, "Hey, Benito." He says, "Benito Mussolini." He'd tease him a little bit. But now
That's
Ben,
pretty special when your dad's proud of your husband,
yeah, I mean, he loved Ben.
especially after what you went through.
Yes.
That must have bugged your father.
Yes.
Yeah. So to see you happy and
Well, my father never liked my first husband. I don't. He kind of. I think he.
he has a good sixth sense, maybe.
Yeah, he had but he wasn't going to
Get
tell
in
me I
between it.
couldn't, or yes, he was going to let me make my own mistakes.
Wise man.
Yes.
Wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
You were going in the Navy anyways. Mama didn't
Yeah.
stop you.
Well, I mean, I was in the Navy because he was.
That's
a
what I mean.
sailor,
I'm talking about years before.
Oh, yes.
Mama wasn't
No.
happy you went anyway, so
No.
telling you no.
Oh, that was it. She, when I came back after because then I had to go back, do the
Yeah.
physical, and then I signed my contract. I raised my right hand. I took my oath. I went back home. And I said, "Well, Mom, I joined the Navy." She goes, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I didn't sign anything." I said, "You don't have to." And She goes, "You really?" I said, "Yes, I joined the Navy. I leave it." "Well, you tell him you're not going." I said, "I can't tell him I'm not going." I signed the contract. "Wait until your father." So he comes home, and she
He
says,
didn't know you were doing it either?
"No,
Wow.
I just did it.
Bold. Because you respected your dad.
I did."
Okay.
But she tells him, "You know what your daughter did? You joined the Navy." And he goes, "You do what?" I said, "Yeah, I joined the Navy, Dad. I'm going to be an aviation electronic." "Oh, yeah." She got mad because he wasn't upset. And then he took me to my old aunts, and the ones that some of them didn't speak English,
Yeah.
and I took pictures with my godparents, and we went and visited to Psychosega because it was a
Wow.
3 month from the time I
Yeah.
contracted until the time I actually left. And they would ask me, "Well, what are you going to be?" And my father would go, "She's going to be an aviation electronics technician." He was proud. I hadn't even started, and he was already proud. When I flew back from boot camp, the only one in the airport to greet me was my father.
Wow.
He was the only one. He was there, and I was in here, and I went past him, and I said, "Dad, Dad." He kept looking for me. I said, "Dad," and he looked at me. He goes, "Oh," because I had transformed. It went
Yes.
from this
Body and
geeky,
everything.
yes,
Yeah.
and I was standing straighter, and there was tears in his eyes.
Oh.
And he filmed me. He goes, "Okay, now put your uniform. Now walk this way." And he's this little 8 mm. Yeah,
That-
it was night and day between the two
to
reactions.
have your father so proud of you
Yeah.
had to warm you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That was everything.
Yeah.
That was everything to me.
Your dad's approval.
Yeah, and that's why I knew he would be okay when he was in the back. He was there when I was initiated as a chief.
Mm.
But I knew I couldn't have him. I had to have my mother pin the anchor on.
To bring her in.
Yes. And he was happy. He was proud because he took us all out, me, Ben, all the kids, my mother, and we went to a nice restaurant. And we were walking ahead. My father was the last one. I was right ahead of him. And a little girl at one of the tables says, I was in my dress whites. And she said, "Mommy, look at that lady." And my father stopped and he goes, "She's a Navy chief." And he kept walking to
That's awesome. So proud.
He was very proud.
What a way to allow him to go be with Jesus.
I know. And well, like I said, it was June of '89 when I left Pennsylvania to go to Florida. I was with VP 24. I had to meet them in Sigonella, Sicily. In October, November of '89. This was 2 years before he passed away. He flew over to Italy to his sister's house. See, I still had an aunt and uncle, first cousins over there.
Right.
And so his sister, and her daughter, my cousin Maria, who was 6 years older than me, they drove over from Italy to Sicily and picked me up at the base. And we went back to Maida. And that's where I told you where we said, "Are we related to everybody?" And that was the last visit before the cancer started its work on him. I found out a few years later that from my sister, she said, "Mom was so angry that he went over there." Because she told him not to go, and he went anyway. And I'm so happy that he did.
Yeah.
Because I have that memory.
Yeah, you have a lot of great memories to hang on.
I do.
Do midlife and major turning points. Were there moments when your life changed other than like the marriage? It sounds like that was the divorce was probably a major change for you, obviously, and then finding Ben. Was there any other major changes that went on in your life through that 40s and 50s?
Yeah. After I retired from the Navy at 42 years. When I was 48, just 6 years later, I found out I had breast cancer. That was a tough time.
Double or just?
It was a tough time. I had a radical mastectomy, and I had to go through chemo. And when when they first told me I had the cancer, they did an aspiration. They said, we're going to have to remove. They removed the lump, but they couldn't get positive parameters. So that's when we went for the mastectomy. But the whole time, I didn't think that I was going to die. I just kept, okay, well, what do we do now? What do we do now? I didn't have time to cry or anything like that.
Yeah.
And
scared throughout, or not enough time?
no, I didn't feel like it was my time. I just felt like
Interesting.
I have to do things to keep going.
Do you have a big faith then as well?
Yes. I had a counselor one time that said, how is it, where do you get your strength? I said, my faith. I said, I just know, I believe it. He tells me, he lets me know. And like I said, I just knew. I mean, here it is, 23 years later.
Right.
And July was 23 years. But I found out I had, and then it turned out, because I called my mother and told her, I was going to have the surgery, and, she tells me, well, I'm going through the same thing. I said, what? She goes, well, I didn't want to upset you. She said, because Michelle was expecting my first grandchild. That's Dylan, my first biological grandson.
Right.
I have other grandchildren.
Right.
She was my...
Were you the first to give grandsons to your immediate family?
Huh?
Were you the first to have grandbabies for your immediate family? I just want to check that one off. There's another first.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yep. Oh, yeah, my three were the first grandchildren. So she had a lumpectomy and then radiation. And I had the mastectomy, and then I had to go through chemo. And Michelle was big and pregnant. She delivered Dylan 2 weeks after the mastectomy and 2 weeks before I started chemo.
How many rounds of chemo did you do?
7 months.
Wow, that's extensive, correct?
It was the most difficult thing I ever did in my life.
Lose all your hair and everything?
Every bit of hair. Every bit of hair. It was like even, because Ben used to call me Hairy Mary because I got, Italian. It was funny because the first time they hit me with the first chemo, Michelle and Ben took me in the backyard before the first chemo and cut my hair real short.
Mm-hmm.
So then after the first, some of it started, I was going to wash my hair and it was coming out in clumps. I thought, oh my gosh. And then I realized all my hair was falling out. By the second treatment, it was all gone. I got in the shower, washed my face all the way back because I was bald. Wow. And then I realized, I stood there and I soaped and I realized, oh, I'm done. There's no shampooing, no conditioning, no shaving.
There was a little benefit.
Yeah, I said, oh, I'm done. So I came out and Ben goes, you're done? I said, yeah, there was nothing left to do. I said, all I had to do was soap and get out and rinse off.
You still kept joy in your life then, although it was difficult? Yeah.
People just, my brother and his family came down for Christmas that year. And so I started chemo beginning of September. So here it is December, and they're down and from Pennsylvania. But they came in, you could see them solemn, and I'm cracking jokes, and my brother finally says, "Wow, you're not like any cancer patient I've ever met." I said, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, you're cracking jokes, you're laughing, and you seem to be moving okay." I said, "What choices do I have?" I said, "I could laugh or I could cry." I said, "And I don't have any tissues right now, so we'll laugh." I said, and someone else said the same thing. Oh, my boss, when I was still in the hospital after the mastectomy, he came in and gave me a full paycheck. He said, and before he gave it to me, he says, "Well, Mary," I actually said Brackett, because he was an old retired colonel. And he said, half of recovery is to stay positive. I hope this makes you positive. and he hands me this check for full pay. And I was home for a week or two, and then he contacts me and he goes, I'll make a deal with you, because he had someone else to fill in for me. He said, I had started the chemo. That's what it was. And he said, I'll make a deal with you. He said, if you come in, every day you come in, whether you stay 2 hours, 4 hours, or the whole day, I'll pay you for the whole day.
Holy mackerel. He knew what he was doing. He was giving you purpose.
Yes, exactly. He said
Something to look forward to, something.
Yes.
Wow.
And that was, while I was at work, I was not sick. I was focused. I mean, now, they didn't allow me to greet the clients.
Yeah.
Because not because of the way I looked, because they did not want. I was not supposed to have any, because I was vulnerable to any kind of infections and things like that. So they did all the greetings and things like that. And there was an empty office, and the receptionist said, Mary, if you want to rest, because it really would tear me up.
Exhaust you.
So I would go in there, and my boss would say, well, you want me to put a cot in there for you? I said, no, it's okay. If I was, so they were like, so she'd come in. I said, just give me 20 minutes. And she'd come in, she goes, I gave you 30 minutes. So he said, he goes, the reason why he made the deal was, he says, look, 2 hours of your work equals 8 hours of this other girl. And it was funny, because she said to me, because we were talking about being positive, she goes, I have to tell you something. We had been working with. She goes, when they first told me that I was going to be working for it and that you were coming in, she goes, I was scared. She goes, I didn't know what to expect. She goes, but I like you, because she thought I would be sickly and all that. But no, but basically, as you see me right now, is how they saw me, except I was bald and no eyebrows.
That's
no
powerful,
eyelash. I
Mary.
look like an alien.
That's powerful that you could walk through that with such positivity.
It was so. I mean, you could see me getting weaker and weaker. I lost 30 pounds.
But you wouldn't let the mental go.
No.
And there were so many around you that were supportive. Ben, what was he involved in everything that you did?
Ben was my rock. Ben would, he would do things like come up to me and goes, oh, non da più, which means in Italian, there's no more. So he said, oh, non da più, that means I only have one.
Ah.
So, and then when my hair started really good, but he would crack these little jokes. When my hair started coming in, it was white and very, very curly.
Yeah.
And it was sparse. And he goes, oh, look, it's like a little baby bird, But again, you don't know what's going on.
He made it normal.
For me.
Life was normal, yeah.
Years later, I was told by a friend of ours, Ben would come talk to me and cry. He was so scared he was going to lose you. And he would get upset. Because halfway through it, I had 4, they called them cocktails.
I've heard that term.
It's basically they're poisoning you.
Right.
Of one kind, and then they switched over to another. Well, when they switched over, the second cocktail, I ended up in the hospital. I fell out. Thank God our son Benji was there. He was a paramedic and firefighter, and he and his wife and poor little Jacob, he was only 2 years old at the time. Not even 2 years old. It was Thanksgiving, and we had breakfast. And I said to Ben, I remember being in the kitchen. I said, I don't feel good. And I don't remember it. Next thing I remember, I was laying out in the next room on the carpet. I was vomiting. His wife was wiping my face and all. And I heard this man's voice, Miss Brackett, are you okay? And I looked up, and there was these 4 hunky guys. I went, oh. I was bald, vomit. I had my pajamas. I had these socks on that my daughter gave me that they had individual toes, one each different color. I went, oh.
Not your utopia of meeting them. Oh,
so
that's funny.
They gurneyed me out they put me on a gurney, and the neighbors are out. What's wrong with Mary? What's wrong with Mary? The pain from that cocktail was so great. Every inch, I couldn't even walk on my feet. The pain was incredible. And so I was at the Naval Hospital, and when they gurneyed me in, the corpsman says, "Okay, sir, we got your room ready." And the guy goes, "It's a woman." He goes, "Oh, I know, it's the bald head."
Oh my
I know, is
gosh.
it 224? He goes, "Yeah, how'd you know? That's what they keep putting me in, 224." I kept having the same room.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was
That's
really
interesting.
weird.
Later life wisdoms. So, 60s, 70s. What surprised you most about these times in your life?
I'll be honest, when I turned 60, it was very, very, very hard because it is like, okay, I'm beyond the halfway mark. And, when you're 40, you can see that yourself making it to 80. When you're 50, okay, maybe 90.
Yeah.
But when you're 60,
Can't make 120? Is that what your brain is saying?
yeah, it's like, yeah, you just start realizing. And then I think I mentioned this, when I was 62, remembering my dad and realizing,
Mm-hmm.
he was not old.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Did you start living harder, would you say? Or are you just more conscious of the time?
I think I was just more conscious of the time.
So making them better? I mean, did you constantly try to make moments better, or did you just live aware?
I think it was more of a wear thing. But no, I think we lived harder too because Ben and I always wanted to travel.
Mm-hmm.
Now he worked he didn't retire until he was 70 because I said to him, I thought we were going to travel. Because because
he's older. So
he's older.
yeah.
So when he was 70, I was 58.
Right.
So by the time we were 60, yeah, I guess we did live a little harder because that's when we started doing all our road trips.
I find that a lot.
We would get in the vehicle and we'd have our picnic basket and cooler and our suitcases. Okay, this is the underwear. So we knew where to grab things. And we also had the one vehicle that we had was a Chevy Uplander, and it was big enough to have those on the side and the suitcase and a twin size mattress. We had a blow up mattress.
Neat.
And so when we stopped, we would just spoon,
I love it.
and catch some eyes. But we have so many friends and relatives throughout the states. We were gone 25, 27 days. We only got a hotel room 4 times.
Dang.
The rest of the time, it was family, his side, my side, or a dear friend that was like family to us.
What was your favorite trip recently in that era with Ben? Neat memory or anything like that?
Oh my gosh, we have so many.
Yeah. Pick a few.
Well, our thing is when we go to different places, I have a page on my Facebook, Ben with Big Things. So we have different big things, and I take pictures of them. And people say, we just love looking at these pictures because they have to try and find Ben in these things. One of the last ones was we went to Bronson, Missouri, and we invited our oldest, Doug, and his wife, Cindy. And so they came, and it was the first time that the 4 of us were together without little kids.
Adults hanging out.
Yes, we were just the 4 of us. We had such a great time.
There's something special about being with your adult child.
Yes. And like I said, without the kids, because when you're with the kids, you're constantly worried about, okay, do they eat?
Yeah.
Or you're trying to have a conversation. There's interruptions. Not that we don't love them.
Sure.
But it was just a special time that we had with our eldest. And
it's pretty neat. There's no mountains. There's no ride.
Yeah.
It's one of the moments you bring up is sitting down with family and loved ones in deep conversation like your father did at the table.
Exactly.
Legacy.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there was no arguments on things. There was no commotions. It was just not. It was
And
just
you know you're
fun.
in it. You know you're in that
Yes,
moment.
yes.
And you just you drink it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's a special
Yeah,
time.
the shows were fantastic. We just enjoyed being with them. And I would like to be able to do that again soon. Um,
Well, that's sort of your sources of joy. What have you let go of?
mm,
Hmm. Sometimes it's as important as what we learn.
just
Don't,
you-
don't go too deep. But I mean, what are things in your
to
life?
let go of.
The cancer was one. I mean, to let go
Yeah,
of fear. I mean,
yeah,
things like. I mean, you've let go of a lot.
yeah. Well,
So there may. So you know what? What I'm hearing is you have done a very good job at guiding yourself and not having to let go of a lot of things because you did it on a molecular level. So you didn't
I
have to
think
get
so.
it at a
Yeah.
really large, big monster
Mhm.
that you have to push out. After your first husband, there, you were pretty structured in where y'all were going. I don't know if you see it, but it certainly shows. It's a very there was trials in life,
Mhm.
but the way you ebbed and flowed through it was somewhat magical. What the notes I'm writing.
Well, I
Did
think
you feel
the
that?
thing I learned is um, to know what I was going to accept and what I was not going to accept.
Your parameters.
Yes, that's what I learned early. I was like I said, I was pretty naive and gullible and all that, and I had to learn. Okay, wait a minute. This is not acceptable,
Yeah.
and just be firm about that. Not accept that. Not accepting. I have had guys get in my face, and I would just not move, step back, because I knew as soon as I took one step back,
Like a dog.
they would follow me.
Yeah.
They would keep, and I would simply look at it. It's happened twice now where they were like in my face, and I would say, "Step away from me." I said, "Step back, step away." I just kept saying that, no matter what they were saying. And then they would finally step back. And later on, I would break down and cry in private because it was scary.
Sure.
But I could not, and I would not let them know that, yes, you're scaring me, but I will not give that to you.
Courage is doing that even when you are afraid. And
Yeah.
so that is true courage.
And
So what are you still dreaming about? Are there many that you just still I love this, I can't wait for this?
I did. I don't know if this is the right answer to the question,
There's
but
every answer's right.
I wish, or I
Just go.
that Ben and I used to dance.
Mm.
They used to call us Fred and Ginger. At weddings, my one daughter would say, I love watching those two dance. But we haven't been able to do that, and I miss that. So when songs come on, I fantasize of me and Ben dancing.
I love that.
I could see that. I remember just because back in the day, we would get fancy, you know, especially like the Christmas parties and things. So we would have like these big to dos in the Navy and balls, and when we would come in, I remember like even the young ensigns or oh, because they never saw me
Cutting the
that
rug,
way.
turning loose.
Yes. They didn't
Hair down
realize
and
I
cut
could
loose.
dance.
Yes.
Yeah. And I said, Ben and I would just, and even do things like when we were in recruiting, the Commodore had come down from New York at our Christmas party. And one of the other girls, she was single. So they had her more like an escort kind of thing.
Sure.
And then there was the commanding officer and his wife. And my husband would say, okay, you ask him and I'll ask her. And we would get, and people were going, oh, oh, because we loved to dance, but we would get,
Bring people in.
bring people in.
Yeah.
And so I went to the Commodore. I said, Commodore, would you like to dance? He goes, I thought you'd never ask. I had this dress I had made in Korea.
Your
And,
go-to dress.
it had like a Mandarin collar. And now they say, oh, you're appropriating, what do you call it?
Oh.
Appropriating somebody's culture, whatever.
Uh,
But anyway, it was red satin with it was black trim with the frogs.
Yeah.
The
Oh yeah.
and it was short sleeve, and then the slit came all the way up to here. Now
Bow chicka wow wow.
I
Say it.
I'm an old woman now, but back in the
This
day,
is your story. Say it.
I was a looker, and my daughter says, "Oh, Mom, you were a diva,"
You didn't mind a little attention,
Yeah,
and you were good at getting it.
I knew how to get it.
There it is. Ben wasn't no dummy.
Oh, Ben would say, he goes, okay. He would do this, like we would go to the nightclub and we would be with another couple, whatever. And he goes, oh, I'm tired of dancing. And he goes, hey, dance with my wife.
Very
He
confident
said, I
man.
need to sit out for one. Yeah.
Very confident
Yeah.
man.
There was a country western bar where this guy, he looked just like Willie Nelson. He did. And he was out there doing the two-step. Well, Ben didn't know how to do the two-step, but I did. Because when I was in Iceland, I took country western dance lessons. And he would go, hey, Willie, dance with my wife.
Willie. All right, we're going to shift
But he
on.
would do that. I mean, like I said, we would just do that.
I love it. I'm going to shift just a little bit.
Yeah.
Meanings and hopes for future. When people talk about you someday, what would you love them to remember?
That's a hard one. Because
It's on the tip of your brain. Just say it.
that I loved hard and I cared,
That's good stuff. Loved hard.
that sometimes I didn't always use the softest language, but I was always truthful.
And your goal was always honest.
Yes, if I said something, it was because I cared to tell you the truth. And I did that with my nieces and nephews, and they always knew if they asked me, you better be ready for the answer, because I'm not going to say it
Yep.
in a
what
horrible
you mean.
way, but I will be truthful, or at least as truthful as I can.
Because you love them enough.
Exactly.
That old saying, I care enough about you. I care enough about you that I don't worry about your feelings.
Yeah,
I care more
Well-
about getting you the information than I do
Right.
about hurting your feelings.
right. Yeah,
Because it's easy to be a yes man.
exactly.
But to have to tell someone you love that they're heading the wrong direction is tough. And it
Yeah.
isn't always the most popular.
Yeah.
Okay. Hang on one second. What lessons do you hope future generations carry forward?
I hope they continue with the traditions, because I think the traditions, like I said, even with my stepsons, they
The 7 fishes and the things
yes,
of that nature.
and even at Easter time, there's certain things that we do, because it keeps it connected. And like when I do it, I remember my grandparents, not just my parents.
It opens doors to generations.
Yeah, I remember because it's something that was passed down. I have the things written down, and I have who taught me, whether it was my Aunt Rose or
Neat.
my grandmother or my cousin Maria, or so that they know, okay, this is with that person, and how they're all connected.
Yeah.
So I think traditions and to remember, where we came from.
So important.
Yeah. Now,
Sort of what you're doing here tonight.
yeah, I'm hoping that they remember. I don't know if I told them all the stories that I've said tonight, but
That's what this is
They'll
about.
hear them.
And there'll be more. They'll have questions from this. If you could leave a message for your younger self or the world, what would it be?
I think pretty much on the same lines. To be as truthful as you can, to be honest, um, and
I love it.
to be your true self, and not the person people try to say
They try to box you into.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that unfortunately, mainly with my mom, to make me feel or think, of myself in a certain way,
Mm.
and then to wait a minute,
That's not me.
that's not me.
Yeah.
I don't accept that, and that's what I was saying about the acceptance.
Yeah. Took a little
You
while,
know.
didn't it?
It did, but once
Worth the journey?
yeah, and once I was able to let go, many years ago, I was able to take what was not so pretty and put it in a box and put it up on a shelf.
Hmm.
And that's what I want them to learn. The parts that you don't like, put them in a box, say goodbye to them,
You can let it go.
and put them on the shelf.
Yeah.
And don't open that box again. The good parts, because there's many good parts,
Yeah.
cherish them, relive them,
Replay
pass them
them.
on. Yeah.
Wow. I know I say wow a lot, but that's because it's powerful. Um,
I had a cousin that told me, he goes, "Where did you become so smart?" 'Cause
and
he
how do
and
you
I
think that
shared
is? How do you think you did become so smart?
again, my faith.
Yep.
There's just sometimes
The practice of your faith or just the faith?
not so much to practice, because I
Okay.
don't practice it.
Yeah. Probably
I
more
don't
so
even
than you.
understand why people say that, practice it.
Well, good point. Probably more though, but you live it. Truthful. That's a spiritual foundation. I mean, I think you probably live it more than you realize.
It's my mother, excuse me, would get upset saying, because I don't go to church every Sunday. But I mean, I go to church with my grandson because he goes, and yes, I'm going to go. I'm going to be an example for him. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I think I told her one day, because I was getting exasperated of being berated for it, that I said, sitting in church doesn't make me any more Christian than sitting in the garage is going to make me a car. I'm not going to become something just because I'm in that building.
Mm.
It's got to be in here. And my husband Ben has not grown up with church and faith, but when we got married, that was one of the promises he made, that we would bring up the children in the Catholic Church, because I wanted them to have that foundation. I wanted them to have that strength to draw on when there's nobody else around to draw on.
Right.
I wanted them to be able to, have that inner peace and like I said, that strength to draw on, and he did. And even when I was deployed, because it was twice, I was gone 6 months at a time. He faithfully took them to church every Sunday, and he would sit on the left side, second pew in. And Father Rooney knew he wasn't Catholic, but Father Rooney loved that man because he faithfully brought those children in. And they also received their first communion. They received their confirmation, whether I was there or not. Some of them I was there for, some of them I wasn't. But he saw it all through. He made that promise to me before we got married, and he kept my promise, that promise that he made to me. And even after the kids were gone, we still kind of continued. But my mother didn't like the fact that he wasn't, Catholic. She was trying to push him into being Catholic. And my youngest brother, he says, she goes to church every day. He says, but I think Ben's more of a Christian because he actually shows it. He lives it,
Valid point.
He's the type of man that will come home to me with 2 kids after I retired, watching my TV shows, still in my house robe, and say, "Here's Miss Mary. She's going to watch you today." And I look at him and he goes, their mother didn't have a babysitter. I need her to work. So you're, he did it to me twice. Just bring kids. Okay, or say, come on, Mary, we got to go grocery shopping. Who are we going for? There's this woman that has a 2-year-old and an 18-month, no, a 3-year-old and an 18-month-old, and she has no groceries. And we go there. Or we got to go grocery shopping again. I said, who now? And he goes, this woman, she just lost her husband and she's got 3 children.
Tender heart.
And yeah. Or, come on, we're going to go buy toys for Christmas. There was a couple, they each had 2 children from previous, and they were on hard times. So we bought toys for 4 kids that we didn't know. I didn't know.
It's pretty special, though. It's a special man.
Yeah. That's
a
the way
special
he
couple.
is.
You went with it, too. You went along with it as well. So, I mean.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to turn them down.
How do you feel after talking about your life today?
Pretty darn good. Because I realized there was more good in my life than there was.
Welcome to Our Legacy Speaks. Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah. It was, yeah.
Wait till
like
you.
I said, I have special kids. I mean, all of them. Our very first grandson, Jeffrey, from our oldest, we were up in Pennsylvania, and they came with our second oldest son. So it was Doug and Cindy and little baby Jeffrey. He was 6 months old. And he had just gotten over the measles. And Doug, at his age, got measles. So he was just, you could see,
Oh, you
not
get it
measles,
bad.
it was chicken pox.
Yeah, you get it bad at that age.
Yeah, it was chicken pox.
Yeah.
And we were afraid. But they made it, and we had a great time. It was Easter. This was Easter of '89. And that little baby, so it was funny because my command, I had made chief the August before.
Yeah.
So, and they say, because they would always list the new babies, okay? The couples and the mamas and the daddies. Right. And this one time they said, well, grandparents are special too. And they had ATC, which was my title, ATC Brackett, and they had the baby's name, Jeffrey, and everybody's like, she's a grandmother? Yeah. I was 35 years old.
Wow, that was young.
They said, she must have had the first one at 13. Not realizing it was my stepson.
Right.
But they're my sons.
Yes.
Okay. I don't really consider those grandbabies, they were never step anything. And they call me grandma. I'm their grandma.
You had it emulated to you very well as a young age. Pretty interesting how you followed your family's path in a healthy way. I mean, you had troubles in life and you had tools to get out of them. A mind, a voice. You spoke. You did a lot of firsts.
I did.
Is there anything we didn't cover that you wish we had?
Oh, gosh, there's so many things that, are swirling around.
And there'll be more. As you drive home and later, and when you watch, I wish I'd. I always say this: what was meant to be said was said. Yeah. And just like you put that up in a box, you put this one up in the box. And if it keeps bugging you, come sit down again, and we'll do another. Thank you so much for being here and being my first. I don't think I put that. No, I did. No, I didn't mark that on the paper. As of now, I have 13 firsts in your conversation, and I think I may have missed one. So I think as you go back, there's probably 16 or 17. What would you like this interview to mean or become as it sits and is seen by loved ones and friends? And also, there will be people that don't know you that watch this. Because it goes on it goes on my channel. Oh yeah, it goes up on my channel.
Well, then there is one story I want to tell you.
Tell it.
You're talking about first.
Yes.
I said about the pistols.
Yes.
And he had me out there, just to tell you. When it came that year to do the match, the guy that was supposed to be the fourth, there's 4 on a team. He said, okay, you're the alternate. She's going to be on the team. And our division officer was a warrant officer, and he goes, oh, okay. So we were out there. I had the 3 master shooters and me. This is my first time. out of 72 shooters, I was the only woman. I came in 12th out of 72 shooters.
Wow.
Our team came in first. And the warrant officer said, we came in first when we had a woman on our team because it was unheard of.
Sure.
We beat the Marines. The Marines usually win.
Bunch of crayon
We
eaters.
beat them by almost 100 points.
Wow.
And and my supervisor, Don Hoots, he says, well, at the time I was work, he says, I keep getting these calls from security. They said, we need a female to help us with female. You can't have her. She's ours. So that made me feel good. Anyway, that's my last story.
Mary, thank you so much for our legacy speech. Mary Brackett, Mary Braccio Brackett, episode 1 of Our Legacy Speaks.